Welcome to the Deep 404. It's been a while since I've done a show. A couple of weeks ago, I started again, did a show with AMK Mapping, which was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out. He's a star in terms of the Ukraine conflict and mapping what's going on. Later on today in the show, I'll be referring to some of his maps. There's big changes in the Russian front, apart from two areas, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. There have been big changes, as we know, in Kursk region being pushed back. Obviously, in the Donbass and Zaporozhye region, there's been rapid advances there for the Russians. And now in Kup'yans'k, where Sinkivka has fallen, which is the little township to the northeast of Kup'yans'k, and the Kup'yans'k battle has stagnated there for a year. The lines have sort of held there. Now there have been some rapid advances. I can actually go here to the screen, and we'll just go and find that up here. Yeah, here we go. Kup'yans'k, in the city area here. Sinkivka fell just a couple of days ago. Yesterday it may have been, and the Russians have advanced and have moved into Kup'yans'k now. As I say, for a long time, this Russian army has been held at this line here. But now they seem to have been able to have got through that, and they have reached Kup'yans'k, and they have also got across and reached the Oskol here. So now with the bridges blown across the river, this is going to be problematic for the Ukrainians, as this area we can see here, which looks a bit like a face or a lion's head, this could turn into a huge pocket if the Ukrainians aren't careful, as the Russians may decide to skirt Kup'yans'k and not fight through here and slow down, but skirt it and then push northwards from here. And given that the bridges have blown, it's difficult for the Ukrainians to make a controlled retreat out of here. Anyhow, so that's some of the areas where there's been a lot happening. Where there hasn't been a lot happening have been in two areas: Kherson and the area here of the Kakhovka Reservoir area in Zaporozhye region. Now, Kherson, I guess it makes some sense. It's south. For Russia to push further here to get into Mykolaiv and into Odessa, they will have to mount a large force to get through this area. They've got to get across the Dnieper River here, which is tough, and they've got to fight a long way to really claim all of Odessa. So that is something that I think the Russians will look to address later, claim later in the conflict, or they will actually look to address via the negotiation and the settlement that at some stage will come, and I'll talk more about that in a moment too. So I guess it makes sense that Kherson, the river forming the border between the Ukrainian forces and Russian forces there, makes sense. What's interesting to me here is the Kakhovka Reservoir area, this area here. Now this is the area that was a full dam. All of this area here, which is green and sort of pale creamy coloured, this is the area that has resurfaced, become available again after this whole reservoir area was drained, after the Kakhovka hydroelectric dam was damaged and destroyed. So there's some interesting articles that you can find about this. Where are we? Here. Here you can actually get a bit of a look at what the area looked like when there was water and what it looks like now. There are reports now that in the year or so that this has been dry, that plants and fish life and all sorts of life have come back to the area. There's talk that some of the young trees in there are 4 meters tall now. So what this is suggesting to me is that this area, which is right near the Engadar nuclear power plant, this area here must now be becoming passable, I would think. Again, I'm not there. I don't know. Some of these areas might still be very, very muddy, but with a year of having the opportunity to dry out, it does seem as though the borders, which have held with the Russians on this side of the dried reservoir and the Ukrainians on this side, to me it's interesting that no one has tried to push across there yet. There was a couple of weeks ago a little bit of activity, the Russians pushing their way up around this northeastern border, but I don't think they managed to sustain any positions there, and they were pushed back. It was more of an exploratory effort, it seemed. Sorry, I wasn't showing you where I was talking about. Just around this area, this northeastern area of the reservoir, if you can see the mouse moving there. But this is always in the back of my mind that to some extent, the city of Zaporozhye here is exposed now on this flank, while there was a large body of water there which was protecting it. Now there isn't. There is a relatively small, although fast-flowing river now. So that's an area that I think it would be worthwhile just keeping an eye on as things progress. As if we go back to AMK's map here, as the Russians start to push westward, through the Donetsk area, all through here, then this sort of southern flank of Zaporozhye, in some respects, the Russians may be a lot closer to it than it looks. At this stage, they're staying along this red line. The Ukrainians are staying along the river, the western side of the river. But in reality, it may be possible to move quickly through this area. This area here, as long as it will sustain the weight of heavy vehicles, and coming into the winter, it may freeze, and that may be something that the Russians are waiting for. And while there's not going to be a lot of cover through there, what I don't know is the state of it. Has it been mined or not? But it's possible that the Russians could advance very quickly to get to this side of the river. And if they do that here, they become very, very close to Zaporozhye itself. A couple of other things. Today's just going to be a short episode, just getting back into things anyhow. There's something for you to watch for the weekend before you watch the Tyson and Paul fight. I think that's on tomorrow on Netflix. The first live boxing event that I'm aware of happening on Netflix, which is a big move for them, I guess. But it's going to get some views. My understanding is that it's free to everyone on Netflix if you have a Netflix subscription. So that'll be interesting to watch. My money's on Iron Mike. I think he'll do it. Now, Trump. So Trump has won the presidency. The Dow Jones jumped 1,500 points on the announcement of that. So the American economy and investors think it's a good move. In terms of Ukraine, there has been propaganda already about a call between Trump and Putin. From everything that I have been able to read and what I've heard, it doesn't seem as though this really happened. There seems to be a lot of propaganda coming out of the States at the moment in terms of Trump's picks, about people like Tulsi and Vivek and RFK and Elon, where I think that the Democratic Party is perhaps trying to influence opinion on these people right from the outset. A lot of talk about Tulsi being a Russian asset, a Russian spy. Why didn't they just make Putin the director of intelligence for America? This is, I guess, all to be expected. But I think what Trump is doing here is that he is securing his position as president. So the difference this time around, he has won the popular vote. He has won the electoral vote. He has got an advantage, a majority in the Senate, and it looks like they're going to wrap up a majority in the House as well. So this is politically a new Trump. He has power to push policies through, whereas in the past they would have been stifled by the Democrats having the majority in the Senate. Now they don't. So putting people like Matt Gaetz into the AG position, bringing Elon and RFK in to cut through government bureaucracy, Tulsi in there. He's going to position people who he knows are loyal to him and support him. I think he's learnt a lot from his first 4 years where he was that complete outsider to American politics and came up against the deep state, came up against that entrenched political movement within the American government who were working against him to retard what he was trying to do. So this time around, I think you can see that he is making, right from the outset, or before he's even taken power, he's a president-elect at this stage, until January, that he is making a strategic move to position people in positions of power within the government to support him so that he will be able to achieve what he's hoping to achieve. A couple of things that I think will be of challenge for Trump there. The big one will be Israel and Iran. Ukraine, I think he will step out of it. I think Europe is aware of that now. I think Trump has never really wanted to be involved in Ukraine. Trump, I think, has always had an understanding that Biden was corruptly involved in Ukraine. And I think that Trump's got some level of appreciation that that's what this whole conflict, to some extent, probably stemmed from that being pushed by Biden's administration. Anyhow, I don't think that he's going to have too much trouble with looking to leave Ukraine. Now, what may be problematic for him is the fact that times have changed and Russia is winning and Vladimir Putin holds the power in any negotiations. There may be some concessions given somewhere else, not directly related to Ukraine, which may allow Trump to look better as he gets out of Ukraine. But overall, I think he will want to get out of there, but I don't think it's going to look great. There's going to be a lot of American spin coming out to try and make it look better than it is. Now, I still don't know how it's going to end. I know people who are far smarter than myself, people like John Mearsheimer and Alexander Mercouris, I think they feel that there's a very good chance that Russia will continue to push until they get to the Dnieper River, all the way up to Kiev, and then quite possibly look to take Odessa. I can see the logic in that. That becomes a very big loss for Europe and America and NATO. Now, whether Trump wants to wear that or not, I don't know. Trump might find a way to get out soon and cut this albatross from around his neck, but then the Russians may continue until they meet their objectives. With the Americans out of the picture, it'll happen a lot faster. So that may or may not be a big problem for Trump. I don't think he cares too much if the Europeans scream about him. The Americans are still able to trade with plenty of people. Russia has demonstrated that you don't really need to trade with Europe to be successful. Europe's got themselves into a real bind, economically or politically, a really bad position, and they're going to need to figure their own way out of that. The first step would be to cut their losses on Ukraine, but whether it will happen or not, it will probably take a few more years of political change in those European nations, and then for organisations, countries like Hungary and Slovakia and Serbia to join together and perhaps form a mini bloc themselves to start to make their own decisions within that EU area. That might come. What will really be the challenge is Israel and Iran. Iran has changed a lot, I think, since Trump was president. Iran don't like Trump. I don't think they had anything to do with the assassination attempt on him. I think that's, again, just American propaganda coming out of the Biden administration. I think if you want to get a good understanding of what, based upon some hard study and analysis of what most likely happened with that first assassination attempt on Trump, check out a guy called I Am John Cullen on Twitter, X, or on YouTube. If he's on YouTube, I'm not sure he's on YouTube, but he's definitely on X. He's done some really good analysis on what might have happened there. Anyhow, Iran will be a challenge. The most recent Israeli attack on Iran seems to have been cut short by the Iranian defences, by the fact that the Israelis weren't able to destroy all of the Iranian air defences. It appears as though maybe the second heavier wave of Israeli attack didn't happen because they weren't clear to do that and they felt they would have lost aircraft. Trump has taken $100 million from Larry Adelson's wife as a campaign donation. She is very pro-staunch Zionist Israeli. So he is in a position where if Trump isn't as supportive of Israel as you may have thought, then he's in a tough position because he's taken a lot of money to win the presidency, and not meeting those obligations will be tough for him. It's going to be tough anyhow. But my thoughts are that he's more likely going to be very pro-Israeli in this term, and that can lead to real problems for him. We've seen demonstrated over the last couple of years, the American military is not infallible. His new Secretary of Defense, Hesketh, sorry, I'm not familiar with his name yet, who's just been selected. Even he, I saw some video of him admitting that with hypersonic missiles, you know, if Iran's got them or Russia has them or China has them, that within 15 minutes and using 15 of those missiles, they could wipe out all of the American aircraft carriers. This is something I've thought for a long time. There's always 2 MiG-31s flying up around the Black Sea, armed with hypersonics apparently. So, you know, they could theoretically take out a couple of the US aircraft carriers stationed in the Middle East themselves. So there are these big pieces of the American military, the American Navy, which are very fragile and in theory could be lost quite easily. Now, if we just put aside the idea of a nuclear conflict in the Middle East, now it's possible, but if we just don't think about that, think up to that limit only at this stage, then Israel's in a tough position. If they push too hard and Iran decides that it's going to stop being restrained and respond and go beyond responding and actually really attack and try to war with Israel, get a major conflict there. But as I say, one where Iranian hypersonic missiles may stop the Americans being able to project power from aircraft carriers, and this becomes a real issue. Plus, if Trump is seen to be supporting Israel getting into a fight and the conflict goes badly, which it could do, then the destruction of Israel is something that could become a problem for Trump to deal with. You know, it may not be the complete destruction, but it may be a prolonged conflict over 2 years, which just destroys Israel economically. It loses all of its tourism, it loses its ability to export, it may well have had all of its ports and things targeted, and any shipping going there targeted and stopped, that it may destroy, to all intents and purposes, Israel. If that happens, then that is something which will be tied to Trump as well. So they're very difficult times for Trump. I know he's come in and he's looking to change the American government, he's looking to change foreign policy, but I don't think he's walked into an easy environment where he will get out the other side and look happy. Even the Israeli issue is a big divider. There are so many people who like Trump but don't like his position on Israel. So it'll be interesting to see. Look, that's it. I've only got a short time today, but it feels good to be starting to do the Deep 404 shows again. If you have been watching the shows in the past, I hope you get a notification or something to see that they're back on. And yeah, look, I had some time off. I got sick a while ago and just needed a bit of a break. My situation has changed now, and so I'm back into it. And yeah, the Jake Paul, I'm not sure, one of the Paul brothers, I think it is, fighting Mike Tyson. I'm just more interested to see how Mike Tyson goes at age 58. Some of the training videos I've seen look very good. Obviously, they would only release the ones that look good, but he still looks very sharp, I thought, and very fast. Still great head and hip movement, ducking and weaving and peekabooing. So I think it'll be an interesting fight to watch if you're into boxing. All right, I look forward to talking to you again soon.